going live on Instagram and going live on lovely FB and YouTube. So some of you may not know, I own an organic salon and spa. I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist. And there's something that is so effervescent in the air right now that it's been so stored in my chest and right inside my gut that I knew that I needed to express some energy tonight on two folds. One is a hard message, but a strong message. And then the other side of that message is that it's not your fault. And I want you to just kind of enter into the zone with me. This is going to be a very, very brief live. Everybody on Insta and the other channels. And tonight I'm going to talk about expectation. I'm going to be talking about expectation of disappointment and secondary gains. And as a clinical hypnotherapist, when I started to learn about what exactly secondary gains were, my instructor would talk about a doctor that pretended that he had an ailment because he hated his job. So he had to remove himself because of an ailment that he actually created. And if you really think about it, there are whole lives spent in secondary gains out of, number one, disappointment, and number two, failing yourself, right? And so we protect ourselves, and since we are little tiny children, we build up this armor of protection as known as a secondary gain. So I wanted to pop on a couple dynamics of what's going on globally in the infrastructure of the frequency and the ecosystem. Now, every Sunday night, I hop on Telegram and we do a private session. It's free. Anybody can join. You can DM me. And I use biofeedback. And I use clinical hypnotherapy and biofeedback to really tap into bringing the untangible into the tangible so we can read the field, which is the bioenergetics, in which I can see exactly kind of what's going on in the field. Everything from emotions, disorientated meridians, etc. As well as we tap into kind of fears and subconscious fears and whatnot, specifically around investing. And when I think about what some people in the world understand about bear and bull markets, about the fear when the economy ends up in a situation that we are right now. For instance, last night I did a live on the BRICS. And if you don't know what BRICS is, the BRICS, BRICS, is basically an amalgamation of different countries that are dipping out of the American dollar because it isn't worth anything. And soon we're going to see a market that is going to flabbergast people on what's going to happen on the other side of that. That is not for tonight's live. But the fear embedded in that, right? And then as Americans, we see everybody basically creating an out of the American currency makes us feel like, well, we don't have a choice. We feel kind of hijacked. Well, what do we do? How do we create value in our dollar when we feel like everything's taken away from us? But all of that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we don't have a sense of urgency on understanding that now is the time to go 10 miles deep versus 10 miles wide. Meaning going deep, deep, deep down into who you are as a sovereign being versus trying to figure out what tactic to take to escape the reality that is upon us. So I wanted to talk about disappointment and be a support arm to you and kind of unpeel the onion a little bit and talk about where it comes from and the stem of it, which is in our amygdala, all the way down the spine of our brain. And we are not living in our forebrain right now, in our conscious mind. And I'll end today with a powerful mantra. And I'll actually preface that with, I don't believe in mantras, which will be interesting. So stay till the end. But this framework is really around disappointment. And disappointment is basically something that we feel when we want something and it doesn't happen. And in many cases, we don't even do the thing that we want or we desire because we don't want to be disappointed. Just think of a time in your life that you perhaps didn't go for the guy or the girl that you wanted to ask out, or for a financial dream that you had because you didn't think that you could do it, that you would disappoint yourself. So we do this because we expect failure. The disappointment is born out of the expectation of failure. So when it comes to we're just disappointed, there's always a way out that we're going to play small in our life. And if we're constantly expecting to be disappointed, we will be teeny, teeny, tiny, tiny, tiny little people and spirits in our own life. We will not play a sovereign game, meaning you have exponential power. But the conditioning and the patterning, we all know this. I don't over spiritualize things. We all understand what patterns and conditioning is. The answer is, and or the question is, how do we get out? We don't get out. We actually take back what we already know and has been blinded by us through the conditioning. So when we look at where does that disappointment come from, when I started the live, I said, I'm going to show both sides. Number one, that you're living a life of secondary gains. Number two, it's not your fault. And when we're children, we are born into this beautiful spirit. I call it awe and wonder. And it has a very feminine essence to it. And feminine is about that receiving energy. But when I say I don't over spiritualize things, there's like this jargon that goes out into the world. And if we understand duality and we understand the laws of the universe, there is feminine and there is masculine. And many believe that, this feminine is only about receiving and it doesn't have a bite to it. And what I mean by that is if you're a mother, you understand what it feels like to be a mother bear. And the feminine is even more so in strength of wanting to go after and be tenacious and to be just all out going after what you have to do and what you have to protect in your life. So the feminine that we're born into is, yes, is one of receiving, it's one of love, it's one of softness, but it also has a bite to it. And oftentimes when you're a child or there's abuse or there's conditioning in the home, that amygdala brain stays intact. And if there's trauma, what happens, this is a little sidetrack, but we have a holographic body, it's energetic. And we go from a T, a small t, meaning small trauma at level 7, and you flip the grid and you transition into a T12. And as a child, the body doesn't know how to deal with that. And so it creates protection. It creates its own armor in the energetic body, unfortunately. Just checking over here to make sure that we're live on Facebook and Instagram. Yes, we are. So with that said, that energy gets stored in the body, right? So going back to the feminine, that is kind of a default of the feminine, but it has a very strong masculine energy, and or we do as well. So we're constantly going between this masculine and feminine energy. It doesn't matter if you're a man or woman, we all have both. It's the receiving and the doing, the compassion and the action. And so there's this feedback loop that is going on for you right now from the standards of the world, telling us who we should be and what we should be. And it's heightened right now in a state of fear because there's so much uncertainty. But right now is the golden hour. It's the golden opportunity of understanding who we are as sovereign individuals and our truth. And I think more than any time right now is the time that we are like, well, you know what? Really don't need the government. I really don't need all of these different systems that are continuing to fail. And we're learning the hierarchies sometimes that abode them have done us wrong. And that doesn't say that everybody in leadership is a bad person or hasn't tried to correct systems. It's just a matter of what we call the beast. And the beast is always going to want the money, and it's always going to side on the side of money. So the goal and the game that's being played right now, and one chess piece and the leading chess piece just fell right now, which was a very big hierarchy in another country, fell. And so now we're going to start to see this domino effect start to happen around the global ecosystem. And the preface again is we have lived based on a learned behavior rather than choosing our behavior. And so what I'm realizing over and over again is that we're living in this very small child within us right now because of the expectation of disappointment and fear. And it is the greatest wound that actually is a disappointment wound that we don't really know how to process, right? And so we kind of get stuck in this odd feminine energy of wanting to receive and be protected, but at the same time wanting to be that masculine and go in and protect ourselves at all costs. So there's glitches in the holographic body, not only personally, but globally right now. And so for so many of my clients, or my ad hoc hypnotherapy clients that are calling me like, I feel stuck, I don't know what to do, all this stuff is coming up. Any of you, I don't think anybody's a healer. We are all divine healers in our own right. Those that are guides and co-guides, right? We're going from, the guru on the stage to the guides on the side. That is the essence that we're in right now in this transition. But as I co-guide clients through hypnotherapy, I always preface it with the energetics that you're tapping into and the anxiety isn't all your own, right? But again, it goes back to we can either react or we can choose. And again, we've lived in the secondary game behavior protection of wanting to not be disappointed or disappoint ourselves versus choosing our behavior. And then when we think about the word behavior, we think about the word feelings. Well, how we behave then generates a certain feeling. And we also think that manifestation is around just feeling the thing. It is largely feeling the thing, but is also the belief and the context behind feeling the thing. And, many, many gurus that stand on the shoulders of many incredible thinkers is that the most beautiful sensation of a feeling is to love it just because you love it. If there's contingencies on it, or there's not wanting to disappoint yourself, or you're going to want to go and get 3 jobs because you want to be rich, but it's really because you're so scared of being poor, there's always a contingency. So it's layering through those and really making sure that it is a desired behavior that you want to wake up to a beautiful human being next to you in a beautiful hotel with incredible sheets, and you will well rested, and it's the perfect day, is a feeling to put yourself through. And that it's not the money that is going to get you there, it is going to be the byproduct of you being there is what brings the money. So that is where 10 miles deep versus 10 miles wide is born from. It's how can I go even deeper into this sensation and break through all those layers of the holographic body of stored previous expectations or conditioning that they just start to fall away. You don't need to work on yourself. There's the biggest lie that we have been told, especially in personal development and healers. It is a very controlling behavior that I'm going to sell you my program because I'm going to, you need to heal yourself. No, you're a sovereign human being. I can help you see the wounds and help support you through those, but there is no work that I do that is going to unchain anybody from their own prison. So there's another piece around this feminine energy that I wanted to bring up that I see a lot in neurodiverse communities, ADHD communities, autistic communities, the 2 exponential communities, because we're smart, is that we also call it, well, I have deep, deep feelings and I have deep, deep RSD, which is basically rejection disappointment disorder. So we've now labeled it, right? You're actually having a reaction to a wound. That's all it is. There is no DSM for RSD, and quite frankly, for ADHD or for any of these other things. It's not, my friend says, it's not ADHD, it's ADHR. It's an ADH reaction. It's not PTSD, it's a reaction to a trauma. That's fine. Then we go and we uproot the trauma and you no longer have those very, very strong feelings. And RSD is basically the not knowing your truth and being able to stand up for it and ask the question, is this true? It's moving through the emotion and getting better at emotional mastery versus staying in, I have RSD, which keeps me stuck and now has become my secondary gain. You get it? It's feminine energy, right? That's what we want to call it. But really, you're normal. It's an energetic wound. We don't like to feel that wound. And so we avoid it at all costs. So we live in a life of protection and we start to compound that energy in a direction that is not a match of what we truly desire. So when we compound emotions, then part 3 of tonight, we're almost through, is that we compound these emotions and it exponentially grows. Just a law of the universe. Energy is amplified. There's a motion of energy in motion. And so we layer these emotions and we lock them in. And so if you want to be happy and experience gratitude, that compounds happiness. It's amazing. But you can also magnetize energy that when you come to your point of origin, you start to realize that you've been in the opposite of that. It's the disappointment energy. And then that just compounds again and locks you into that prison. So we can start to be the energy or continue to borrow it, right? So what we often do is we then become a yogi, or we get obsessed with personal development industry and we get more certifications, raising my hand, thinking that I can just borrow it or go and buy it, right? So then we get into this pattern and we have to be cognizant. Why am I buying this? And if I'm not feeling it, am I buying it so I can feel it, which is a false platitude, which then seeps you into that disappointment even more because you're unconscious to the reason that you bought it. So what so many people do, and I'm just bringing awareness to this because it may be you, I can promise it probably is, because it is me, is that if we don't have it yet, we want it so bad, and so we go to the store and we buy it. Or we go to the internet and we buy it. So if you're not going to choose yourself and utilize the relationship with the universe, and you go and buy a qualification, you go and buy your needs from the store, that's fine. We need a bridge sometimes. But if you're going to choose to believe, use your beliefs and your strength and how you strengthen that every single day, everywhere in your life. Everywhere in your life. If you get into a mastermind, like I'm in a crypto mastermind right now, and it is intimidating as hell. I have learned so much about blockchain technology that is beyond buying a freaking NFT and how it is going to transform this world. In fact, I have beta access to seeing all of the seized assets from all these scumbags that are taking our money for so long. I have insight and intel, but I feel so small. But we're all learning together because this has never been done before. We're creating it. And so I view it as, wow, like I may not be the smartest person, and this I'm often in these circumstances, but here's something you can borrow. I may be intimidated, but I am the bravest person in this room. And that fills me with joy. It fills me with so much tenacity because I know there's a lot of people behind me that when things start speeding up, I have the resources, I know what to do, and we're going to learn along the side of leaders that are setting up the systems that we are going to run nations on, right? And so versus having the disappointment and not thinking I'm enough, I have the belief that I am the bravest person in this room, and I'm 3% of society that created my own creator coin and started my own creator coin on a blockchain because we've moved from Web 1, which is basically read. Hello, AOL, you've got mail. You receive incoming information. Web 2 was, you read, you write, you pay to play. I'm on platforms right now. I'm on Instagram, and I'm on Facebook and YouTube. I'm not necessarily paying, but if I wanted to run ads to get people to actually listen to this, more people on the eyes on it, I'd have to pay to play. That's Web 2. Web 3 is reward. So in a system that isn't just you pay me and then I deliver you the thing, and if you're unhappy with it, you ask for a discount. I'm getting rid of subscriptions down the road. And my holding economy is going to be an economy, and it's an ecosystem. The growth guild is an ecosystem of people that believe that they can be absolutely effervescently full of wealth, health, and joy in their life by creating their own land of plenty. And when you join, you hold a coin. It's not an investment, but your value goes up over time. And 3 years later, if you're like, got what I needed here, I'm ready to transition, you got to go to the market and sell the seed coin. And you make either 10x that because it's gathered so much more value at that point, or you sell it for a discount and you realize that, you got 50% of what you wanted and needed, and you actually still made money on your purchase, versus acting like a child and going to the creator or the person that set up the system, and it didn't work for me, so I'm going to be a child and I'm disappointed, so I'm going to go ask for a refund on all the hard work that that creator put into it. That is childlike behavior, and that is Web 2. And Web 3 is sovereignty, transparency, and people taking back their own ownership, and it's going to be incredible, but we still have a long ways to go. That's a side note. So I do understand that it was a major risk. I do understand that I could lose all my money, but I purchased it for the experience. I purchased it for the experience of getting inside a community that understood what the heck is going on, and then I advanced that social graph of 3 more communities that now I actually get to give back to. On Sunday nights, I'm giving back to incredible investors that were healing the energetic pathways through quantum biofeedback and belief system work. So now I'm part of the community and I'm actually giving back to the community. And that's the network effect, right? So that secondary gain is that you make sure that you feel that thing in advance to prepare for that disappointment. And I can tell you, I lived most of my life waiting for something that I created to be stolen from me. It's why I became such a hard worker. But luckily for me, every single thing I do, I love. If I don't love doing it, I won't do it. So luckily, there was that last piece of secondary gains that now, as this ecosystem is blowing up in our world, I know that this is even more so what I preach, and going 10 miles deep versus 10 miles wide. There's nowhere to go out there. There's only one way, and that's in our personal sovereignty. So we talked about secondary gains and disappointment, how we set up our entire life to be disappointed so that we can be right, so that we can self-protect. We talked about feminine energy and how we have both masculine and feminine, but we also forget the feminine energy has a mama bear to it, and it will protect at all costs. But we also have to be in a place of receiving, and that emotion that you receive is one just because you love it when you are creating and vivifying your future. Because if you vivify your future out of that fear, that energy, it's a mismatch. It's a mismatch. There's chaos in the field. It's chaotic. You can feel it. You know it. You're not sure how to correct it. And that's some things that we go over in the Alchemy in Action Sunday night sessions. But what we really are doing right now is we move through these next 3 months. I've gotten many downloads. It's 3 months. It's very, very specifically 3 months. 3 months, my friends. This is the time to create disc-confirming experiences. So before, when I talked about people in ADHD, they talk about RSD, rejection sensitivity disorder, right? We created a DSM on it. ADHD is a DSM. Really, we just institutionalize patterns, emotions, and trauma. And then there is a neurological piece there, but my belief with the neurological piece is two-sided. When we are children, we don't have that self-compassion. The right part of the brain, the self-compassion part, doesn't get nurtured. And so we get stuck in the amygdala and the do mode. And so we have an imbalance of the brain neurobiologically. And then there's the other piece that neurodiverse people are very often that 3% of society that are hypervigilant. I'm very hypervigilant, but I can also be full of excitement and joy because I just love life, and it's advice for life. You can call me that I'm neurodiverse, that's fine, but I see things, I sense things, I see the holes that other people don't see, and I act on it and I go create. So we are actually the pioneers of the world. You can call them ADHD, or you can call them pioneers that act on what they see and want to do. and they just take more risks. And so they may have more quote unquote failures, but they just have more experiences on the way to hitting that bullseye, right? Which brings me to another thing. Hello, Instagram friends. Bullseye. Do this exercise. This might help bring some context to the end of this slide. I want you to imagine just this dark board. Close your eyes in your mind's eye. Think about a bullseye and think about the middle of that bullseye. Think about it as, let's start with negative first, anxiety. So look at that bullseye, see it. I'm looking in the camera. There's all these circles around the Logitech camera. I'm seeing the bullseye as anxiety. I can only see anxiety in the middle of that circle. Now, widen out your lens, look around, you see that there's all different types of things around you. I see products that I created, I see beautiful plants, I see all these different contextual things. But when you're focused on disappointment or not failing or what have you, you're only focused on that bullseye. Now, put that bullseye into happiness. So when you wake up in the morning, what is your bullseye? What is that narrowed focus of that emotion that you want to feel? Is it powerful? Is it happy? Is it joy? Whatever that is, doesn't matter. Make sure that you're feeling the emotion and it is connected to the bullseye. That's the hyper focus, right? Focus is our number one currency right now, right? So when we're manifesting, we're trying not to be disappointed. Create a new bullseye and redecide and decide and redecide every single time you hear something like I have RSD or I have this or I have anxiety or what have you. Your bullseye's off. And your conditioning is there. And you created a secondary gain so that you can be right to not feel the wrong. You can change that really quickly and you don't need to fix yourself. You do need community, right? And so any divine soul that joins any of my Sundays in the Alchemy in Action, basically it's called Alchemy in Action, Reflect and Reset Energetic Activation Systems sessions. And what we do is we pop resistance in the field. I use my biofeedback. I literally see the aura. We watch the aura change. We bring in the Bach flower remedies, the emotions, because remember, emotions are affecting the organs. The emotions are actually determining the health of your organs in your body. It's frequency. So we clear the energetics of that week, precisely what's in the field every single week. And we continue moving the energy. And then we also come with expectations of accountability, meaning what is the one thing that didn't go great this week? What is my one powerful win? And what is the one thing I'm going to focus on this week? So then we have the energetic field, and then we have the conscious mind field. Conscious decision, co-creating, conscientiousness through your week by having a plan. What you don't plan, you will fail. So you decide what you do when it becomes potential in your life and you move towards it with conscious choice. And by removing those wounds in the field that you've been carrying for so long and with community, with everything that's going on in the world right now, things are going to get very, very hairy. But this, again, is where you create your sovereignty and you go 10 miles deep versus 10 miles wide, right? So you get to choose who you want to do that with. I'd be happy to have you join the Growth Guild community, hold one seed, you get in for free. If you want information, DM me. But the conclusion is this, logic and feminine energy don't blend. We need the right side of the brain, which is going to be that self-compassion, that love, and that patience and understanding that's going to bring understanding to the secondary gain and how you've self-protected for so long. It's fine. You can let it go. It's at the speed of thought, right? And then that left brain is really it is that logic. It's the strategic, it's the conscious forebrain that's able to really create a new action and a new feeling. So it's really coming back then again, balance and wielding that new intention with a conscious action, right? Now, one of my favorite quotes, and I'll leave you with this, two things, is Carl Jung. And he says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. It's my favorite quote. I love it so much because it is so, so true. And the other piece that I will say is I don't like mantras, and that's only because I have an incredible person that gave me a mantra that said I could never tell anybody the mantra, and that mantras are kind of a load of crap, to be honest with you, because it is so disrespectful to the ancients that actually created the mantra and the sovereignty and the beauty of a mantra, right? But I'll say this, it's a statement of truth. And so I'm just going to read this so that your subconscious mind, and even if you don't believe it, just pretend, because your subconscious mind is picking up everything. And I hope you listen to this whole live. If you didn't, if you're on Instagram, you can go back to Facebook or YouTube and listen to the whole thing and know that your subconscious is taking it all in and is saying, cool, I can create a new mind map here. The more I visualize, the more my mind is going to go and seek what I want. So here is the non-mantra manifestation. I am a manifester and I am a conscious co-creator with the universe. This is simply who I am. This isn't anything I could do to change that. There is nothing I could do to change that because I was born this way. My mission in this lifetime is to stay conscious of what I am energetically responding to and asking for. And I sometimes get distracted and forget my powers. And that is my only true downfall in creating my life, because I am the kind of person who creates the things I think and feel about. Just by thinking and feeling them, I co-create with the universe. I am refining every day the process of my focus on the things that I desire rather than the things I fear. And as I attract both with ease, I again am the conscious creator. It is the art and the craft, and it is also your true essence and your sovereign purpose. So as this world continues to make it more chaotic, like I said, I've been getting downloads of 3 months. I never over spiritualize. I never prophetize anything. It's really just the sense of honoring my intuition, is that now is the time to go 10 miles deep. Understand that protecting yourself and staying small right now is really just out of your childhood of a secondary gain of not wanting to be disappointed or disappointing yourself and feeling the pain. But feeling the pain is the way through, and I know you've heard that, but having a community around you is essential to healing. I believe that the Growth Guild is made for it because when we build together, we heal together, and it's the most magical experience is creating, because that's what we are, creators. So if you want to join the Alchemy in Action, you can DM me. It's basically www.growthguild.club/biofeedback. It's www.growthguild.club/biofeedback. And that's where I explain how we pop resistance in the energetic field. We use the latest technology, and we make things happen. So all my love, all my light. If you have any questions, reach out, and thank you for being here.